What's up, everybody? So let me tell you a story. So I had the HP carburetor on here, and the one of the screws for the flow bowl, I tightened it too much because the bowl was leaking. I stripped it, and I could have gotten it off, I think, with my impact, but I had already ordered a PZ19 carburetor before this happened. I already had it in my hand. So I then had to make an intake for the PZ19. I started by cutting a flange from the intake that it came with, but it was still too much of an angle. So I ended up ordering someone else's adapter for it. It's just a straight pipe instead of an angle. So that worked out great, and I used a high temperature fuel hose, so it goes down from an inch down to 3/4 of an inch. It's stretched out to an inch on the carburetor side, but it's hosed so it stretches, and a hose clamp to tighten it down. And there's no air leaks now. Works great. So I got a jet kit for main jets, and I had to adjust the needle up one notch to make it leaner. Otherwise it was just rich all the way through. So then I put in the richest jet that I got in the jet kit, which is a number 92. And I'm worried that it might still be a little bit too lean. But it seems to be running great now, other than it doesn't have as much power going up hills. It used to go about 22 up a hill, now it does like 16. Yeah, so it doesn't have as much power going up hills, and then I have to tune the air-fuel mixture just right so that it'll go up the hills without it being too rich. But when it gets to the top end, it revs really high, which makes me think that it might be lean on the main jet. But it wants to go faster than it used to. I'm just not trying to go that fast because I don't want to run it too hot or too high. Because it used to go 33 and then it would bog out, and I think it was because the fuel in the HP carburetor, it was running out of fuel. And now I think that it has plenty of fuel once it gets up that high. So it wants to go faster than before. I just don't want to run it too hard. 30 miles an hour is fast enough for me. But I do think I need to change the pilot jet because it won't go up hills fast enough. And it does seem sputtery sometimes. So I don't know if I should adjust the needle a little bit more, lean it out a little bit more. I don't want to run too lean, obviously. Or if I should order some pilot jets. I did read on a forum someone had the 21mm PZ21. And they said the 95 was perfect for, I think, about the same elevation as me. So I figure the 92 should probably be perfect, probably for the 19. My other option is, because it's $23 for a set of bigger jets for 100 to 145, and that seems excessive. So I still have the stock jet if I can bore that out. I guess I can look into how much drills are hand drills. Anyway, that's what I've been up to, trying to tune this carburetor, but it seems to run good enough now that I can use it to get back to doing deliveries with it.
Someone called the cops.
The other thing that happened was, while I was tuning the PZ19, I went out to go ride it, and my pedals were stuck. Like, they were like grinding. It felt like the bearings were seized. So I had to get a crank puller. I thought I had a crank puller that came with the engine kit, but it's slightly smaller than a crank puller, so I'm not exactly sure what it's for. So anyway, I had to pay $5 for a crank puller and got the cranks off. I have another set of cranks. The bearings on my other bottom bracket, on my backup one that I was going to swap it with, the bearings on that are seized. But when I got the cranks off of mine, my bearings seemed perfect. So I just put my cranks back on, tightened it down a lot more, and I think what happened was my cranks were slightly off threaded, and it got worse over time because I didn't have a 14mm socket. I ended up having to use a socket wrench socket that's the equivalent in the American size to a 14mm, and that got my bolts out of my crank. But I didn't have a tool to get my bottom bracket off, but luckily my bottom bracket seems perfectly fine. So I just put my cranks back on, tightened them down way more than they were before, and now they're fixed. So that was kind of a pain. And then I had to get back to tuning the PZ19. But I think I have it at least tuned now to where I can ride it and I can do deliveries with it. I just need to get a couple of pilot jets, I think. Then I think it'll run a lot better. I think it's a lot better carb, obviously. It's just harder to tune, which is the whole point. The HP carburetor just works, basically. It's not the best, but it works and you don't really have to tune much. But with this one, you have to tune it, you have to know what you're doing, but you can get more out of it that way.
And it's a bigger carburetor.